KCAT 97.1 FM.
Hello, KCAT Nation. Ben and Ptine, the Quarantine Diaries. Week 5, still stuck in the house, recorded, retouched, reclusive. Ben in Victoria, Ptine in Houston. Ptine, happy quarantine to you.
Happy quarantine to you, Ben.
Ben and Ptine, the Quarantine Diaries is brought to you by Corona, the beer. And yes, I was that guy. This was one of the first Lents that I didn't give up beer. Well, not beer per se. I gave up carbonated beverages. But that was mostly for carbonated water, because I think I mentioned I'd become addicted to orange bubbly. And beer was just sort of an accident of that. But the truth is I hadn't been drinking much at all since my wife was pregnant. And then after the baby came, you kind of don't even feel safe getting buzzed on a Friday night, right? This little thing kind of needs a lot of attention. And so I really had been quite a teetotaler. But coming to the end of Lent, I started reading about how Corona was actually really just crashing in sales because, I mean, it almost seems too dumb to really be true. But I guess people are avoiding it because of all the virus stuff. So I absolutely went out and bought some, and it was on sale. And you feel just like the biggest tool in the world buying it, right? The person you're buying it from is judging you. Like, you're like, oh, can get some Budweiser, chief. So, lots of judgment. But I bought some limes, and I haven't had a Corona in a long, long time, and it is delicious with the lime. I mean, I've always long maintained not a standalone beer, but pretty good with the lime. So,
I'm surprised that they were judging you for not buying Budweiser instead of not judging you for buying Labatt or some other Canadian crap.
No, it's funny. So I absolutely pulled my punch on that. I was going to name something that was an exclusive Canadian brand, but I didn't want to get mocked. Oddly enough, and I know that every Canadian in the world that you meet will tell you this, I don't think I've ever seen anyone drink either Molson's or Labatt's up here. I feel like they just have it as an export beer. It's like a trick on all the other countries.
Where do they export it to?
I think just the U.S. I feel like they might even make it in the U.S. too. I feel like Buffalo has a brewery for Labatt. But
exclusively exported to Minnesota and where? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. You'll never find it on tap up here. It's not at an airport or anything. It's like a big secret. Yeah. But anyway, so Corona, our sponsor for today. Lime's not included, but you should buy them. And I was thinking, really, if Corona is starting to run out, we really are at the end of days, right? If people are not buying Corona, I'm hearing about beer shortages. I mean, it just seems like things are really starting to go haywire. And it's funny that we talk about end of days because here in Victoria, we've pivoted to a more hopeful thing. We've pivoted to, instead of stay at home, the new catchphrase is be active but apart, right? So they want you outside. They just want you spaced out, which I think is a much happier thing, right? Because before, I would always go outside anyway. Nothing like, I'm not licking doorknobs, right? But I would go outside and hike around and stuff. But now we're being a little more aggressive about it. So we went to the beach this weekend, and beautiful day, sunny, good for Jimmy to get a little bit of sun and some wind. And I was inadvertently wearing a TAC shirt, right? I had just grabbed anything out of my closet, so it wasn't deliberate or anything like that. But I was wearing a TAC shirt, and as we were walking down to the beach, right? So you park kind of above it on the bluff, and then you have to walk down some stairs. There was a guy that looked kind of like this, right? Nice beach faring guy, sitting there on a bench overlooking the windswept waves, beautiful day, nothing untoward, right? He sees my shirt. He says, Thomas Aquinas. And I was like, yeah. Does that mean anything to you? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I went to school there. He's like, yeah. And then, so far things are normal, right? So far things are normal. But then he's like, so what are they, like missionaries or something? And I'm like, no, it's just a small Catholic school in California. And he's like, oh yeah. I have a little bit of American blood in me, but I'm born in Canada. And so now I'm kind of starting to think that maybe this initial recognition was not at all what it seemed to be, right? Sammy pointed out to me later that she noticed immediately that he had very bad teeth, right? Like homeless mouth, right? Missing kind of meth teeth. And the next thing that happened was he said, well, the wind is really picking up and the waves are getting larger, right? Harmless, if not irrelevant to the conversation. But then it segues quickly into there's seismic activity, the plague. We're in end times. And I realized that I'm really not talking to this guy anymore. I'm talking to this guy, crazy person, right? And at this point, I start to move away from him. He's screaming after me what sounded like either some sort of blessing or some sort of thing. It was really uncomfortable. Sammy, when we get to the bottom of the stairs, there's a guy still ranting at us, is saying, why do you wear that shirt out in public? And things are not great, right? And to make matters worse, right, we know we're going to have to come back past that guy, right? So the entire time we're walking on the beach, we're trying to think of alternate routes to avoid going past him. Because crazy sit by the beach guy is still going to be there. He's not going off to a business meeting. He's not going off to lunch. He is there all day. He probably has a tent nearby. So you're going to run into him again. Now, we decided that it was too weird to cut back through the neighborhood and circle back around to the parking lot. So we simply decided that at the end of our walk, we were going to go back up the stairs and just face the crazy person, right? Maybe get another blessing. Who knows at what point he'll be, what he'll be like then. And I, in an attempt to disguise myself, I had binoculars, right? And so I was kind of holding them up by my chest. So Jimmy's strapped to my back, like these binoculars on my chest. I thought maybe I could obscure the logo and he wouldn't really see us again. And so the whole time going up these steps, I'm just dreading getting to the top of the steps where he was sitting off to the right on this little picnic bench. But when we get to the top of the steps, lo and behold, he's now talking to this guy. And as we scurried past, I heard this guy saying, well, yeah, and that was just one of my lives, man. And the crazy person, completely engrossed in the conversation. So we were saved by reincarnation guy. The only thing that can potentially appease a crazy religious radical who wants to probably rebaptize my kid and talk to me more about where I went to school and then probably murder us is reincarnation guy, right? Because you can just keep on murdering him. He'll just keep coming back. So thank you, reincarnation guy, and your man bun. You really saved me a nice awkward conversation at the top of the stairs. And from what I understand, you also have had some experiences with doddering odd folks around the neighborhood.
Yes, but mine are purely internal. I've been, blessed with not a commute. I've been quite often. I finish all my classes and my grading and all my preparation. And so I'm typically able, starting at 3 or shortly thereafter, to just play with my children. What we've been doing the last couple of days is I just take them out into the front yard, which requires supervision. So it's a bit of a treat for them because there's a street and cars and people who drive way too fast in a residential neighborhood sometimes. So I just sit out there on the chair and I watch them. And then I've been sort of casually doing yard work, which is a big difference from realizing, a normal day, a normal time during the school year, I realized I haven't mowed the lawn for, 2 weeks and it's like 6 feet high and there's creatures living in it. So this is Texas grass that grows like crazy, at least during the warm months. So I've just been kind of as I thought of it, just sort of leisurely doing yard work. So I would bring out the kids, they would draw with chalk on the driveway, and I'm going to mow, half of the lawn. Don't break a sweat, very enjoyable. And now I'm going to I'll trim a couple bushes, or maybe I'll edge it this one day, just
go after the neighbor's tree.
I started thinking myself as, kind of a English country gentleman, just enjoying his land.
With random chihuahuas attacking you.
Well, yeah, but that's only when I walk around the block. As long as I'm in my own yard, I'm protected. So
now, are you gas mower guy or do you go with the battery pack?
So I found I guess it's questionable legality, but it's someone who's reselling used things. I assume it's just that the big box stores don't want to deal with restocking and selling used things. When someone
sounded like the back of a truck or something. Paint the picture for me.
Warehouse in an otherwise nondescript mini mall thing off to the side of
a password to get inside.
It's like a crappy warehouse section of outside the suburbs. But anyway, they sell like great deals on like barely used things. So I bought a bunch of battery powered like 40 volt. So I mean they're pretty good. So like the lawnmower, the trimmer, the blower, everything. So battery is great. It's quieter. You don't have to
Yeah.
clean it really at all. You just recharge it. It's actually great. That can be our next.
Stole it. You bought it. It worked out.
No, it works really well. So I've just kind of like been doing this like desultory yard work where I just like, meh, I'll work for 30 minutes. And it's not that hard. It's not like spending 4 hours working on your lawn or something. It's nice. So I thought of myself as this kind of leisurely country gentleman. But then as I did it for a couple days, I realized that like, no, I don't look like the wealthy English landowner. I look like a retiree who has nothing better to do but fuddle around their lawn for like 2 hours every day and just like obsessively fix small things. So my self-image took a big hit.
Well, you can always revitalize that, right? Because if there's one way to reverse that, elderly man, you're right, puttering around, doing yard work, recently paroled ex-con, working on a motorcycle in the driveway. So maybe something like that. I'm sure that if this warehouse on the outskirts of Houston probably has motorcycles, possibly even kidneys. So maybe if you want to kind of rebuild your image, next time your neighbors are walking past, your kids are playing in the yard, but you're not trimming the petunias, you're cranking wrenches on your hog.
Yeah, promising.
It'd be a good look, right? Because really what I'm learning from the quarantine is it's all about trying to take a situation and find the best situation for you within that situation. And it got me, again, as those who listen, I realize is a trend, it got me thinking back to TAC and how a lot of times the happiness in your life was somewhat beyond your control. You were really a victim of what section you were in, what tutors you had, and things of that nature. And so it got me thinking, what if we had the ability to pick our own sections? So in honor of the NFL draft, we're going to do our section draft, the snake draft, right? So I go first, Peter goes second, or vice versa. And the idea is you're going to pick a team for your strengths, right? So me, for example, did the work. Definitely the kind of guy who, if there was homework to do, would do it. Not one of those guys that would not do the homework and show up and talk. However, a little bit of a drinking problem. Definitely got a little less interested in going to class on Fridays. So not 100% reliable for the late week classes. And I'd say about an 80-20 prop guy. So I'm going to get the props done 80% of the time. There will be 20% of the time where I'm flat-footed and I won't be able to do it. So I need to kind of build an army around myself that plays to my strengths. So Peter, with that in mind, what would you say is your assessment of yourself, and then we'll start the draft?
So primarily I love to talk. I love to argue. I love to identify what position I was going to defend, whether that was something that I knew going in or that I decided on within the first 10 minutes. So I really enjoyed the combat, if you will. I don't know. That's both a strength and a weakness in terms of like the overall experience for everyone else. So that will go into my picks. I am someone who, I guess maybe 70-30 in terms of preparation, and that's an average over the 4 years. So it was higher earlier on.
Chopped off severely at the end.
Yeah, somewhat. So those are all considerations that will go into my draft.
All right. So do you want the first? And we're, I think in my mind, we're going to attempt to go 7 deep. I don't know if we'll get there, but we're going to give it a shot. So I feel like we'll do a snake draft.
So with my first pick in the 2020 section draft, I will select Meg Duke.
Now, Megan Duke.
Megan Duke. I did have her in section 1 year. And what I really enjoyed about having her in section is that, so she's super smart. She was combative sometimes when she held something strongly, and she wasn't willing to just sort of budge because different people said something. But she was never antagonistic just based on principle. She wasn't one of those people who just decided she would argue the opposite because someone was arguing it. So like I would like a very principled voter, someone who
Yeah.
who made her arguments based on the issues. And that for me was just sort of like the most important, the one person I need in a section is someone who is willing to argue based on the issues, based on what their honest thought on the text, and just someone who made it really fun to have class.
Gotcha. So you put a lot more thought into this than I have. My strategy is loosely going to be described as assholes and people who dress well, with one benevolent pick. So I am going to start out with, now remember, my weakness was 80-20 guy, right? I can get 80% of the props, 20% of them I'm not going to be your guy. No one has ever been more excited freshman year to get the hexagon than me. Now, the hexagon is like the worst of those end-of-year props. It's not glamorous. It's easy to do. But I wasn't dodecahedron guy, right? Like, I wasn't gonna be able to pull that off. I wasn't gonna be able to draw it nicely. I wasn't gonna be able to present it eloquently. So really happy I got the hexagon, and I can kind of just take the rest of the year off. Now her name is Lauren Schmidt, but Lauren Gallagher, prop machine, someone who always brought it. She's not gonna talk a lot in class. That leaves me more room for the assholes. And she wasn't a terrible dresser, but really she's on the team because she's a prop machine. So Lauren Gallagher Schmidt is my first pick. And for my second pick, again, we're gonna dip into the asshole area. Now you got to be careful, right? There's a fine line between class asshole and too many class assholes. Being part of the seminar of hate, I learned it the hard way. But what I'm going to go with is someone who will be a class bulldog, a leader, but someone who's not going to get complacent being the leader, right? So I'm going to pick for my second pick, Erin Lee. Now, Erin Lee, probably one of the more underrated people from my class. Now, you can go cross-class. I'm just starting out with my class. Because really, really smart, but he somehow or another got the label of having done it before. So I think he went to like a Legionnaire school. And so no matter how dominant he was in class, no matter how right or how brilliant he was, he never could escape that rap that, oh, well, he's just doing it a second time, right? It's kind of like if you were to go back and dominate first grade. So I feel like that will keep him hungry enough that he will never rest on his laurels, and he will still keep trying to impress the class with his dominant intellect. So my first two picks, Lauren Gallagher Schmidt and Erin Lee. Back to you for pick number 4.
So for my second pick, a lot of my picks are in my class because of the personalities and people that I'm most familiar with. But this one is a little bit out of the box, and I think it adds a spice, which is every section needs the person who just throws shade at those who are not prepared or those who are just not contributing well. In my experience, no one did that better than one of my tutors, which was Mr. Bear. So the fourth pick in this draft, I would select John Bear because his ability to really just give biting and understatedly mean comments to people who are unprepared and didn't know what they were talking about was really a highlight of my entire intellectual career.
So I don't think this is defamation because he said it, but my lasting memory of Mr. Bayer, having had him in a class one year, is he once in the middle of class said, someone was like, well, I wonder what that's all about. It's about some fob bug thing or that. He's like, well, I wonder about a lot of things. For example, why do men have nipples? So, I mean, this is your number 2 pick, right? You've got Megan Duke because she's nice, and Mr. Bayer who wonders why he has nipples. I don't know. We're going to put this out to a vote. I'm feeling pretty good about my chances so far. Okay, so you get 4. So number 5, again, remember, I have to be with these people every day, all week. And what I learned to appreciate is that when I had people that were better dressed in class, that made for a happier environment. Now, I don't want to make myself sound like a pervert. It's not like I'm just sitting there staring at someone that's wearing like a tie, but I think that's a very valuable and underrated part of the class. So I never had
It's
a class
called
with her.
eye candy. You got to have eye candy.
Well, I don't know if I want to be quite that strong about it, though, right? Because that's
I will.
my wife
I can say that because
sounds...
I'm a diminutive female. But yeah, it's eye candy. Totally.
Okay. Well, you might be underwhelmed by my choice then. I'm going with Lauren Andes, the now Lauren Eck, because she always looks really put together.
Great choice.
There we go. Okay. I'm winning so far. All right, so Peter, you get 2 picks.
My next pick is going to be Steve Curry for several reasons. So one, it's really helpful for me to have a smart friend who at the same time doesn't hog the spotlight, because then I get a lot of the validation where someone says like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you because they're smart, so they know that what I'm saying is right. But at the same time, they let me express all of those things that are right instead of saying it themselves. So that's really beneficial. And then the second thing is that if you have a friend like Steve who's willing to make an entire like review of sophomore math and share it with you, that's really helpful when it comes to studying for finals.
Like these nice picks are making me want to pick like an even worse team. Like I had a bunch of lists of people that I thought were like too far, and I'm gonna start dipping into them. But you
These
get
are
one more
boring
pick.
sections, you guys. Where are the spicy fighters? I don't like. Where are the people that are, like addressing each other by their Christian names and storming out, not coming back? Where are these people? You need some of them.
Do you remember? I picked Aaron Lee. That's a pretty good pick. Were you on the phone for that?
I was there for that.
He's
I was going to say that I think a large part of Aaron's whole like persona at school was like his hair with that like wave in it, like the permanent wave.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I've heard rumors that wave may not be there anymore. And these may be based rumors. They may be totally unfounded. And, but I've heard, so that might affect the overall vibe.
We're not drafting like the all prostate all stars here. Like this is like the younger, greater
these
versions
are
of
just
ourselves.
considerations. I just feel like I'm just tossing that out there.
Besides,
So you want to factor in a future bald guy is a problem for you, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it could work either way. I mean, bald guys also look more intelligent, I think. So there's that.
All right, well, that might be a factor. So, Pierre, I think you got one more pick, but I'm about to double down on the asshole strategy here.
Well, I just wanted to mention again that this show is older, wiser, and more mature. But my next pick, I think you would, works with you, Ben, which is Ryan Shea, who it's really fun to hate. And he fits perfectly into that role of antagonist because he's incredibly intelligent, but also, and especially in class, incredibly obnoxious, and would play advocate very consciously and try to stand in the way of what otherwise would be a fairly clear consensus class. So he would add a lot of spice to my section. He's someone who I would enjoy defeating an argument. So Ryan Shea's my next pick.
You definitely pulled him off of my board. I had him very much on the asshole board.
Oh wow, that's the first one that we've
only on one based only on one interaction, right? And that wasn't even an interaction. I was walking past him to sit outside for lunch, and he was at this table.
He laughed.
And I heard him
He
talking
just
to someone.
laughed. He laughed, and you fell down.
No, it wasn't even that. All I heard is, but he was talking to someone. He's like, "Oh, I couldn't sleep the other night, so I put on some Chopin." And I just wanted to punch him right in the face. Like it just seemed like the softest thing I've ever heard. And I was angry about it back then. We mentioned the show is older, wiser, more mature. But yeah, Ryan Shea was definitely on my board. So I've been deprived of Ryan Shea, but I've got a whole lot of assholes left, which is good. So my pick, I'm going to go lower class, and I'm going to pick Joey Lyons.
Wow, he's on my.
That's right. But probably for like good reasons, right? Like, oh, intelligent guy. Like, I just feel like he would talk. I think he'd do his props. And I feel like Aaron would bring out the tiger in him. I think he would get feisty. And also he could do a pull up with 75 pounds on his back. So Joey Lyons off the board to my team. Okay. So let's see. We got 4 people, 3 to go. I think I have one more pick. So going back to the good dressing crowd, Domi Deerdorf. Don't know much about her as an academician. I think she was okay at props, I guess Deerdorf Martin now, but always someone who dressed nicely, right, which is a big criteria to be on Section Ben. So Domi Deerdorf is off the board to me. So far I've got Lauren Gallagher, Aaron Lee, Lauren Eck, a lot of Laurens, Joey Lyons, and Domi Deerdorf Martin.
Okay, so for my next pick, it's really helpful. Man, all my picks are positive. I don't know where you're thinking, Ben. You're not really going with the mantra of the new show. My next pick is formerly known as Gina Ide, she's in our class. So I actually thought of her, and I thought of her as someone who, it's good to know that one person in your section is actually praying for everyone every night. That's something that, we all need. And I was maybe not conscious of it then, but I realized now that she was probably praying for us every night. And then I went to the internet to check up on her. And it turns out she's She's a Benedictine nun in Missouri, and she's possibly.
Oh, I thought you were going to say she was like fixing up the motorcycle in front of the house off of parole, like you're going to be doing.
But I feel
Not so
like
much.
that was a pretty solid pick because I think she's probably still doing what I expected her to do.
Got it.
I like that.
I just hate your team so much. This is just like a selection of nice people that I would
This
want
is not a
nothing to do
fun
with.
team. I don't want to be in that section. I can't lie. These people would make me feel super guilty and like insecure, and that's hard to do for me.
Wow. All right. Well, my next pick.
There's a lot of smart, holy people. I mean, how about a few like normal people in there?
You need a bad boy. You need a bad boy or a bad girl. That's what you need.
We got it. We need a bad boy. Emphasis. Yeah.
A real bad boy. I don't really have any on my list. That wasn't where I was thinking. But so one person who, so this is from a limited experience. So this is senior seminar, but I would have loved to have this experience throughout my entire career, which is Frank Osborne.
Teresa.
So Frank Osborne was really fun because he would encourage us to bring random, otherwise esoteric themes into discussion. So it was kind of a game within a game, which is just what can you bring up that relates to Pink Floyd, or what can you bring up that relates to Star Wars, and that are direct quotes, but embedded in otherwise plausible sentences within your discussion. And so that for those like classes where you're not super interested, this gave another avenue for maintaining interest. So I would pick Frank Osborne.
I don't think he'd like to be in your section. I don't think he would enjoy that. All right, so I'll do my final two picks. So I got to go big on the asshole. John Henry Pacolic, big time asshole. Perfect asshole to compliment this class. And again, I'm saying this in like a complimentary sense. I know it sounds very negative and very old show, but like, the dominated class, you kind of had to be a little bit of a bulldog, have a little bit of edge to you, unless you're in Peter's class of Mother Teresa. No, so I want John Henry. Got to have John Henry. And to finish it off, the best dresser on campus, Sarah Carpentier-Oriana, has to be on the team. I don't know how to do with the props. I think I was in seminar with her once, and she was fine. But I think that, again, to finish out my assholes and good dressers team, got to have Carps.
Yeah, Carps, good call.
I mean, I like your theme, Ben.
I've been consistent.
So I think my last pick is Nat Hellerman because he has the most random, like extreme theories and interpretations of things that it derails the entire class. So, I mean, you might start talking in Plato about what justice consists in or something, and then Nat will throw out the idea that like basically justice doesn't exist, and derails the entire class. And that's actually really fun.
You basically just picked your friends and Ryan Shea. That was your team.
And Mr. Bear.
And Mr. Bear. Oh my gosh.
Mr. Bear, yeah. Wondering about his nipples. Yeah.
And Sister Sophia of the Holy Eucharist.
All right. So, Regine, since you're on, I am going to put this out as a poll on the Facebook page. But since we have an impartial potential judge here, we'll give you first say on who has the better section. We have Peter's little section of the holies: Frank Osborne, Nat Hellerman, Ryan Shea, Gina Ide, Megan Duke, Mr. Bayer, and Steve Curry, and Peter, of course. A bunch of nice people. You have Ben's assholes and lookers: Lauren Gallagher, Aaron Lee, Lauren Eck, or Andes, Joey Lyons, Domi Deardorff Martin, John Henry Bacolic, and Sarah Carpentier-Oriana. So if you were to choose a section to be the 9th member of that section, which section would you go to?
A part of me wants to be part of like the holy intelligence section. Yeah, I think I would prefer to be in the assholes and lookers section, honestly, because I think all those like holy people and nice people would have a hard time, like they would just agree on everything. I don't know.
What class did you have Bayer for?
Duke would agree on anything?
I mean, is she really going to argue with Sister? What's Gina's name now? Sister, what's her name of the
Sister Sophia of the Holy Eucharist?
I feel like Meg would probably not want to get too disagreementy with that. I don't know. I mean, that's just a vibe that I get. That might kind of like really reduce friction.
All right, well, we'll put this out for a vote. Yeah, we'll put it out for a vote for sure. But this is a perfect segue into our game. So you've heard her talking a little bit. Rosine Grimm, thank you for joining us. Very nice to have you here.
Inviting me.
Everyone's allowed to participate, so we're thrilled to have you. when we looked over our demographics, we realized we didn't have enough fans in Ireland, and we didn't have enough of the Grimms, which really, if we get the two of those sections, we'll probably have about half of the Earth, right? So we're very happy that you could be on here.
Population. Definitely, yeah.
That's right.
For sure.
Our Trojan horse into the bigger and greater things. But a perfect segue from assholes and lookers is into our game, which is called a seminar or stealing your car. Two people enter, one person leaves. We have the lovely Roisin Grimm representing Ireland and the Grimm family. Woo! And our often defeated co-host, Ptine. Welcome back, Peter. The way the game goes, and I think to get Peter's confidence built up, Roisin, since we have you here, I thought we'd do a special little thing where to get Peter kind of warmed up, we're going to do an Irish showdown, right? The tagline of the Quarantine Diaries is that this is a show that is older, wiser, more mature now that we're in our 30s. And so I wanted both Peter and I to say this for you in our best Irish accent, and you judge who had the better one. All right, okay. All right. The show is older, wiser, more mature now that I'm in my 30s.
The show is older.
Okay.
Yeah. Ready?
Go for it. Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay.
The show is older, wiser, and more mature now that I'm in my 30s.
Oh, I think Peter was better.
Peter's was better.
Yeah, it was. Ben, you sound like you're from like you're a Southie or something. Like there was kind of like some Boston.
Oh wow, that's from an
No, there was like a twang.
You're a big
My turkeys, you didn't like
Boston.
Well, that might have been the problem. I think to prepare for this challenge, I just was watching clips of The Town. So not only am I like my training
Black
was
Mass,
Ben Affleck.
Black Mass is not an accurate representation. No.
Wait, so turkeys did nothing for you? Turkeys?
That was it. That was I liked that. That was thank you for the nod of the green hat.
A little
that was
bit
good.
of a comeback at the
Yours
end
was
there,
more
right? It made you
musical.
pause.
It was more musical, and the musicality is definitely an element.
So seminar or stealing your car, right? What I realized is that it's very hard sometimes to differentiate between an academic that you might read in seminar and a common criminal. So, for example, the name would be Joseph Almeida. This is your example, right? And you might think, okay, a studious-looking gentleman here, someone who, if you can barely tell, is holding a coat hanger and hovering around a car with a stupid look on his face. So you might look at the name Joseph Almeida and you might think, okay, well, this is clearly the name of an academic. And so you'd be right, that would be a seminar. Two people enter, one person leaves, Peter versus Roisin. It's not just a matter of right or wrong. You can guess the same thing. To get you closer to the pin, you have to guess if it's a criminal, what their crime was, and if it's an academic, what their field of study is. So our first candidate is Michael Jorg. Peter, you go first.
Seminar and socioeconomic movement.
101. All right, Roisin, Michael Jorg, seminar or stealing your car?
Stealing your car, and I want to say, can I say white collar? I mean, is that a clue that I'm allowed to derive from this graphic before me?
Well, he's certainly wearing a white collar because he was convicted of luggage theft in Thailand. 1 point, Roisin.
Oh my gosh.
Michael Jorg, stealing your car. All right, well, or your luggage. Roger Alberton. Roisin, seminar or stealing your car?
Oh gosh. Well, this is hard for me because I tend to think that all British surnames are just criminal, but I know that's a bias that I have that's probably unfounded. I'm going to go with seminar, medieval studies.
All right, seminar, medieval studies. Peter, what say you? Seminar or stealing your car?
Stealing your car, illegal possession.
Oh my goodness, that's a 2-pointer.
Yes.
No
Peter with the
way!
stealing your car and possession. And I really thought that I was taking the chance. So there is a very famous theologian or philosopher rather named Rogers Alberton. So I thought maybe you guys would know. And so I also found a Roger Alberton after much searching who is a drug addict. So I was very happy with this find. I'm glad that it fooled somebody. But let's move on to Michael Affleck. So, Peter, you're first on this one. Seminar or stealing your car?
Stealing your car, insurance fraud.
All right. This is like the face of insurance fraud. Sure. Rogine, what say you? Seminar
I
or
also
stealing
feel
your
like
car?
I feel like Affleck may lead us to that insurance guess.
The
Yeah,
duck, yeah.
I'm gonna. I think stealing your car, human trafficking.
All right. Wow. So Michael Affleck, the former head of the Ba'ath Party, a renowned Iraqi political scientist, the precursor to Saddam Hussein. So obviously the party went in a little bit of a different direction after he was taken off of. But in the interest of always awarding points, certainly not one to commit insurance fraud, but maybe someone to traffic a few humans. So I'll award Rogine a half point. So far at
If
the end
anyone's
of
trafficking humans,
that is the face of a. This is like the face of a guy who stole a corn dog, and this is the face of a guy who he traffics humans. So, I think that we'll accept it. So, after 3 rounds, Peter in the lead with a 2 to 1.5 points competition. Moving on to Mr. Gunter Anders. Seminar or stealing your car? Peter, you're first.
I will say seminar phenomenology.
Seminar and phenomenology. Rogine, what say you?
you know, he could be some like erudite Swedish professor, or he could just be a guy from Minnesota. It's really hard for me to say right now. I'm gonna go with stealing your car. Let's just say vandalism.
Wow, this is unprecedented. Seminar, the renowned
you told
German
me he was
philosopher.
bad at this.
Maybe we can make this a little bit easier on you with Mr. Joseph Cohn. This is quite a contrast. So I believe that, Rogine, you go first. And you got some catching up to do. So.
Oh my gosh, this is stressful. Okay, let's go with seminar, American history.
Peter, what say you?
Stealing your car, vandalism.
Oh my goodness, this is a domination.
Wow.
That's actually a possession of drug paraphernalia, but yeah, 1 point, Peter. So this is not looking great. We're at a few rounds to go, 2 rounds exactly. Then the last one is a 3-pointer. But Rogine sits at 1.5, Peter sits at 4. So there is a chance for you to come back, but you've got to make some moves here. So we'll move on to Edwin Abbott.
Edwin Abbott. What? I'm going to assume that I have a prejudice against families that would give their last name as also a middle name. So I'm going to assume stealing your car.
I think his parents were both named Abbott and they got divorced, is my guess. It's like a hyphen.
Well, that also prejudices it against the much older photo of the gentleman on the left. So I'm going to say stealing your car, bootlegging, if that's still a crime.
It looks like a bootlegger. Rogine, what say you?
Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of going the opposite direction with the double barrel last name, because he could be from, the Abbotts of Hertfordshire, in which case that's a very, noble name. Also, but Edwin is one of those names where you can go high or you can go low with it, like you could be Sir Edwin, and you can also, so I'm just going to go with seminar, and I'm going to go with biology.
All right. Edwin Abbott, the theologian, Anglican priest who wrote the book Flatlandia, which I don't know what that's about. I think it's like a flat earth thing.
It's about biology. It's about biology. Clearly, it's about biology.
Study of flat things, sure. That's very, you know what? I'll give you an extra point. All right, so we will research that, but that takes you to 3.5 points, and Peter at 4, going into the last round, so it's really anyone's game. This one has the potential for 3 whole points. Terry David Bateman.
Those look like the same people.
It's the glasses.
I believe it's Rogine's turn first.
Terry David Bateman. So this is Jason Bateman's, cousin. He didn't turn out so well. I'm going to go with stealing your car, and I'm going to go with, fraud.
All right. Stealing your car and fraud. Peter, what say you?
Yeah. I'm also going to go with stealing your car. It just seems like a really, really guilty name. Fraud. I'm going to say it's really petty. He looks like a petty man. I don't know what the word is for robbing someone for a very small amount of money, but that's what I'm going to say.
I think it's petty theft, I believe.
Petty theft, yeah. Terry David Bateman, petty theft.
So you should have followed your instincts. Known as the real-life Walter White, Terry David Bettman is a chemistry professor who was caught for cooking crystal meth. So both a seminar and stealing your car. So it is, in fact, the same person. So, wow. Both of you are half right. Fraud versus petty theft versus cooking meth. I don't know if those are close enough. See, Peter, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you've actually beat Pete. So congratulations, Peter.
I'm happy to have been the vehicle for this victory.
Very kind of you, Roisin.
And you won the Irish challenge. So I think actually to make Roisin feel a little bit better, we're going to do the Irish challenge again, except this time Peter is going to compete against Roisin to see who can win. So, Peter, you can go first, and I will be the judge with all of my Gaelic knowledge.
The show is older, wiser, and more mature now that I'm in my 30s.
I feel like actually it was pretty good. That was a consistent thing. All right, Roisin, let's see what you got.
I'm laughing so hard. Oh, okay. I feel like I should do like a fun accent, right? Like not just a.
Well, apparently you can pick.
You could probably do an Australian accent, and I would be like, that sounds very
maybe I'll
Gaelic
do
to me.
like an inner city Dublin, like okay. Let me see. The show is older, wiser, and more mature now that I'm in my 30s.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite part of the show. Okay, well that was a clear win.
Oh, sorry,
Roisin
Grandma.
Grim, everybody.
Sorry, Grandma.
Well, I mean, she might actually listen to this now, right? Because each week we do a Facebook ad to someone that would not be interested at all in the show, which was oddly popular amongst people that like Korean cuisine. We're going to advertise to the Emerald Isle this week, and so maybe your grandma will in fact see it. But thank you so much for joining. Peter probably feels a lot better about himself. I feel a lot worse about my Irish accent, but I think I'll make do. So for all you people out there in KCAT land,
Take 48.